Hey everybody, Sam Dog, the infamous 253, coming at you guys with Dallas Stewart on the speakerphone. Decided to do this a little differently today. This year, we're gonna go do it live, and you know what time it is. Ever since our season came to a close, it is now time to recap. Me and Dallas are gonna go over our personal top wins of the season. This year, we felt this year was good enough for five, so we're gonna go over our top five wins of the year plus two honorable mentions, which we'll mention before we do number one. Dallas, how you doing?
Pretty good.
Yep. So let's get into it. First off, win number five. Our first top win of the year has got to be the game against the Commanders.
Yeah, in week 10, I believe it was.
Yeah, week 10 against the Washington Commanders. That game was a jiffy of a game. Started off slow. They got the ball first. They went down the field, ended up scoring, and that was a tough game back and forth, too. And I'll never forget that little dump off pass. Gino hit to Kenneth Walker, and he took it like 64 yards for a
Yeah, for our
touchdown.
first touchdown of the game.
Yeah, thank God Myers made all his field goals in that game. And then freaking just, that was just a back and forth game, man.
Yeah, Washington usually always plays us tough. It's usually always a battle, and it was nice to get revenge for the 2021 Monday night game.
Yeah, and of course that one time we lost to them at home in 2017. But
Yeah, and I think a key play in that game was Joey Sly missing the extra point on their first touchdown, and also the pass interference on 4th and 5 when it was 19-19, I think.
yeah, I remember that. I remember that. I remember that key pass interference. Didn't we cash that in for a touchdown to?
Yeah, the Tyler Lockett touchdown.
That's right. Tyler Lockett did catch a touchdown. Then they go down the field and hit De'Ami Brown for a touchdown and tie the game. And then we hit DK Metcalf twice with two big plays and get in the field goal range and are able to spike it with a few seconds left. And Jason Myers kicked the game-winning field goal to win the game
Yeah,
at the end.
it was a back and forth game, and I'm glad we were able to pull it off,
Yeah.
considering how bad of a season Washington had.
Oh yeah, for sure,
It
man.
was a struggle for sure.
It was, especially battling Sam Howell like that.
And it
But
was the week after we got beat down against Baltimore.
yep, it was. All right, win number four, Christmas Eve in Nashville against the Tennessee Titans. Did not start our best. I mean, well, actually, we did get a big three and out, sacking Tannehill when he fumbled the ball, and then frickin' it was a battle from the get go too. They drove downfield, and frickin' Derrick Henry throws a touchdown pass to freaking Okonkwo,
Yeah,
and our run defense was really getting gashed in that game too. And then freaking later on, we get a big touchdown play to DK Metcalf, which thankfully they reviewed it and he tapped the toes in, and it was but didn't that freaking because we had a field goal in that game too, and then we were able we
we
had
had a couple field goals. I think that was made it 13-10.
yeah, and then freaking they drive down the field and get the Derrick Henry touchdown, but they left us too much time on the clock, and then we drive downfield, and then Gino is able to hit that big 3rd and 14 play to Jackson Smith and Jigba to keep the drive alive and keep our hopes of winning that game alive. And then we do a couple of questionable plays, one of which was a run to Zach Charbonnet, which got snuffed out pretty easily. And then on the 3rd and goal, Gino is able. Well, yeah, because also we got a big pass interference play when DK got grabbed, and then freaking the
Yeah,
3rd and goal, Gino to Colby Parkinson to give us the lead, give us a 3-point lead, and then freaking later on that very drive, Tariq Woolen makes the play of the game. The ball was still in bounds. He knocked the guy backwards and allowed the clock to keep on running, which was able to dagger and win the game for us on Christmas Eve.
yeah,
Yeah, that was a 20-17 win.
we had back-to-back 20-17 wins.
And it also definitely shows that we definitely need to definitely address the run defense this offseason for sure, man. That has to be a key issue, is fixing the run defense, especially plugging up the middle and not letting anybody get any wide open gaps like the way Pittsburgh was able to run all over us in week 17 and just I mean, because Derrick Henry, we knew Derrick Henry was going to be a tough challenge to bring down and to freaking try to defend against, because he's always going to have big games against bad defenses like ours.
Yeah.
But yep, that was a pretty nice win on Christmas Eve, and now let's get on to win number 3.
Yeah.
Win number 3, the Cleveland game where we wore the throwback jerseys. Now that game
was week 8.
Yeah, week 8. That game we got off to a pretty fast start. We were able to drive down the field pretty good, and then we did that jet sweep to Jake Bobo, and he was able just to barely break the plane and get it in for a touchdown, and then freaking we get another drive going, and I think we were able to freaking hit Tyler Lockett for a big touchdown, and Cleveland was able to get back in it. PJ Walker was their quarterback, and when it looked pretty dim, when it looked like we were going to lose that game, the big play was when Jamal Adams freaking came up and freaking used his head, like literally. PJ Walker throws it, ball goes off Jamal Adams' helmet, and Julian Love gets his first interception as a Seattle Seahawk. And we drive down there and hit Jackson Smith and Jigba for what would be the game-winning score, and then we go 4 and out, getting a big sack on, which Tariq Woolen I thought should have had an interception on that play to end the game, but we pretty much did all 4 games, and then we got the big sack to end the game to finish out the Cleveland Browns. What was the final score of that one again?
24-20, I believe.
Yeah, all in large part to that big Jamal Adams play, which obviously off the helmet, and Julian Love getting his first interception as a Seahawk. But Jackson Smith
it was one of our 3 wins against playoff teams this year.
Yeah, one of the 3, exactly. And Jackson Smith and Jigba, pretty much 2 of his 4 touchdown catches were game winners.
Yeah.
Yeah, that game was tense. It was the first game where we busted out the throwback jersey. It sucks we couldn't get a win in it down in Dallas, when we busted them out on the road. Would have loved to have gotten that Dallas win, which was definitely big. But now it's time to get on to win number 2. We're in the top 2, finally the top 2. Now, this was kind of hard to think. This kind of took a lot of consideration. I know what a lot of you guys are going to be thinking on here to why we picked these games as 2 and 1. But what this game that we're about to do, it was going to be number 1 at first, but then after seeing more of their monumental collapse, I think it was right that we decided to put it at number 2. Granted, it was definitely fitting to be number 1 because of the circumstances of what we had going into that game, especially. So this was a tough one, but number 2, the Monday night win at home against the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah.
The Drew Lock game, as it turned out to be. Now, that game was tough from the get-go. Philadelphia just drove down the field and got it in on a brotherly shove with Jalen Hurts. Well, Jalen Hurts actually just ran it in on us. It wasn't a brotherly shove position quite yet. And then we get held to a field goal, and it was it like 10-3 at halftime?
Yeah, it was 10-3.
10-3 at the half, and then Drew Lock leads us on a drive, and then Kenneth Walker punches it in for the first touchdown to tie the game. And then later on, Philly goes on a drive, gets it in on a brotherly shove with Jalen Hurts again on the brotherly shove.
2 rushing touchdowns, and I think he was playing that game with the flu.
Yeah, he was. He was playing the game with the flu, and then Julian Love gets a big interception on a deep throw that Jalen Hurts tried to throw for Quez Watkins in the end zone, and Julian Love came up with a big interception, and then freaking when it looked like the Eagles were going to go on a drive to try to put it away, we get a big stop and force a punt, and it was like, how much time was left on the clock going into that final drive of that game between Philly?
I think it was like 1:54.
Yeah. We set up enough time for a big drive, and then freaking Drew Lock hits a couple of nice big plays to DK Metcalf to get us deep down the field. And then when it was like under a minute left, freaking I could not believe that we even were able to get that drive going the way that we did with Drew Lock, and let alone with us not having Geno, did I think that we were going to have a shot of winning that game with Drew Lock, because we did not feel pretty good at going into that game. But I thought for sure our dominance over Philly was going to come to an end that night.
Yeah, so did I, especially with Drew Lock.
Yeah, and then after getting a couple of those big plays to Metcalf, then that freaking third down play, Lock throws a dime over the shoulder fade into the hands of Jackson Smith and Jigba for what would be the game-winning touchdown. That was just an incredible play that Locke made to Jackson Smith and Jigba. And then after that, we had to leave it on our defense, and then Jalen Hurts heaves one up to try to get in the field goal range for them to potentially tie the game, force overtime, and Julian Love makes an incredible interception to seal the win for the Seahawks, yet keeping our dominance over the Philadelphia Eagles alive, keeping Pete Carroll undefeated against the Philadelphia Eagles in his tenure as Seahawks head coach. He ended his tenure 8-0 against the Philadelphia Eagles, playoffs included.
Yeah.
But that was an incredible game to be at in person. I remember just after JSN caught the touchdown, I remember just running around like, holy shit, holy shit, holy shit. That's literally what I said. I was celebrating with a bunch of other fans, getting in position in case anything would have happened, just to be ready to go beat the traffic. But I stayed in there to the end, and yeah, just to get a head start in case for, when the game ends, just to be able to beat some of the crowd out. But that was a hell of a win, and what made that game awesome was that we did it with Drew Lock, for sure.
Yeah, definitely probably the best game he'll ever have as a pro.
Yeah, Drew Lock will remember that the rest of his life. I'll never forget the backpack celebration he and Geno Smith did that night, too, after he threw the touchdown to Jackson Smith and Jigba.
Yeah, and it was in prime time, which made it even better.
And Peyton Manning's reaction to Jackson Smith and Jigba's catch was priceless. Him and Eli Manning's on the Manning cast. I remember when Drew threw it up there and then JSN came. I remember Peyton Manning's like, what a catch! And I knew Eli was excited because he knows how much he hates the Eagles with him all the time he played for the Giants, having to face the Eagles twice a year every year.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Now let's get on to honorable mentions before we do unveil our number one win of the 2023 season. Honorable mention number one, the Week 4 game in New York against the New York Giants. I was at this game, and that was the best game our defense played in the season. We sacked Daniel Jones 11 times, 2 of which were by Devin Witherspoon in a masterpiece game that he put up, the best game of his rookie season. 2 sacks and a pick six that came right to my end zone, followed by me owning and triggering 2 cows in the front row who had a couple White Claws too deep, and I just basked in the silence of victory. And started with a Mario Edwards strip sack later to get us the momentum. That game was a little bit of a struggle, and then Geno goes out, curls out to the right, hits DK Metcalf in the corner for a touchdown. Geno gets hurt for a little bit, goes out. Drew Lock leads an incredible drive, hitting Noah Fant on a big third down when I thought he got in the end zone, but his knee was down to make it 1st and goal. And then we punch it in with Kenneth Walker, the third, and then obviously later on the Witherspoon pick six to just seal it.
Yeah, the Witherspoon pick six was the dagger.
That Cuban cigar that I smoked afterwards was sweet.
That just took the air out of the stadium.
Yep, and it kept our undefeated streak at Lumen Field East alive, and obviously MetLife Stadium, because we own that place, Super Bowl included. We just own that place. And we're going to get a shot to make it 7-0 next year because we play the Jets there next year, which I may try to go, which will almost likely be seeing Aaron Rodgers. But who knows if maybe the streak will come to an end against the Jets. Who knows?
Yeah.
Hopefully not. See what we do this offseason, see if we make anything to fix anything that we have to fix, like our run defense, and let's see where it goes from there. All right, honorable mention number 2, the Week 18 game, Pete's last game as our head coach. I was at this one as well with my dad in Arizona. Crazy game. We freaking get a Will Dissly touchdown, and then we were up 13-6 at halftime, and then freaking James Conner, they go down on that drive. Our offense was non-existent for most of that second half, and James Conner ties the game with a touchdown, and then we freaking let them fake a field goal pull Kyler Murray back in and throw a touchdown to Tyler McBride, which I thought Pete should have called a timeout before that to prevent that, so we could have been more ready for it, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then later on in that game, we got why this game is an honorable mention. I know what people are thinking, that maybe it should have made this list, but it is what it is for what we were thinking before going into this one. But we got a little help from the Pottsville curse later on when Arizona had a little bit of a drive with a chance to pretty much dagger the game. which it was still a 7-point game at that point, and then Prater shanks it to the right. We get the ball. That gave us a lot of chance. I thought Prater for sure was gonna make that field goal, because he's usually clutch from where he was kicking that from, for sure.
Yeah, that definitely would have iced it if he had been able to make it.
Then we go downfield. Gino hits a couple of big plays to DK, and of course Zach Charbonnet was a big part of that drive. And then on that first down at the 34, Gino throws that dime to Tyler Lockett for the touchdown. And then our season was already over at that point because the Packers had beaten the Bears. And then Pete rolls the dice to go for the 2-point conversion, and Gino hits Tyler Lockett wide open in the back of the end zone for the 2-point conversion. But what sucked about that was we left too much time on the clock, so Arizona got a chance at another drive. Kyler Murray hits Michael Wilson a couple of times for some big plays, and then Leonard Williams gets a big stop on third down on James Conner, hitting them in the backfield, pushing them back a couple of yards for a little bit of a loss, and then Arizona calls their last time out with 1 second left, sends Prater out to try to kick what would be a game-winning kick, and Prater shanked it to the right to secure us a 21-20 win over the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, it was definitely the ugliest win of the year, but I'm glad we got it done in what turned out to be Pete Carroll's last game as our coach.
And hey, you know what? Why not end it on a high note, And I'm glad we were able to end it on a high note, have something to feel good about going into the off season.
Yeah.
And hey, we did it in style, right?
Yeah.
Yep, did it in style. Ended the Pete Carroll era in style. Thank you, Pete Carroll, for a great 14 years. It sure was a fun ride, and what a way to end it.
Yeah.
All right, last but not least, now our number one win of the 2023 season. Like I said, we had a bit of thoughts going into this one to how we were going to choose this list, and now, pretty much with the run that they're having, and after they just beat the Rams in the wild card by 1 point, and now they're going to get another home game. Number one win of the year, week 2, our first win of the season against the Detroit Lions.
Yeah.
That was a great game. We started out with the ball, got a Kenneth Walker touchdown, then they come back and strike back too, and then later on they had the lead, and then frickin' coming out of halftime, Uchenna Nwosu strips David Montgomery, and then we cashed in with another Kenneth Walker touchdown.
Yeah, we did.
And then we had a couple of field goals too. Detroit had a couple of touchdowns too as well. I think one of which was who scored one of their touchdowns? I'm trying to think who scored it. Was it Josh Reynolds?
I think it might have been.
Reynolds
it was so early in the season.
Yeah, that was a crazy shootout in that game too. And then the play that changed the game afterwards. I know we had a couple field goals in that too, but the play that changed the game for me in that game was the Trey Brown pick six. After we were able to take the lead with a field goal, then freaking Trey Brown getting that pick six to make it a 10-point game, and then Detroit gets a touchdown. Then we were able to hold them to a field goal to tie it up, and we go to overtime, win the coin toss, drive down the field. There were some ticky-tacky calls in that, like the freaking intentional grounding call that was on Gino in that game, too. Granted, we were still able to hit Tyler Lockett for a big touchdown on that drive, too. That's what it was. Yeah. I keep forgetting on that, so. But then we win the coin toss, go into overtime, drive down the length of the field, hit some crazy plays. Gino took an almost unnecessary sack at the end of regulation, too.
Yeah, that almost nearly cost us that game.
Yeah, I remember. That was one of the things I remembered about that one. And then freaking drive down the field, and then, granted, we didn't have Abe Lucas or freaking Charles Cross in that game. The way that we were able to hold off Aiden Hutchinson throughout that game, even with Stone Forsythe and the different formations we used for the offensive line, was definitely suitable to be the win of the year. And then Gino throws that pass up to Tyler Lockett. Tyler Lockett was able to touch the pylon with the football. Game over.
Yeah, Lockett with a clutch game-winning, catch in that Detroit game.
Yeah, and that's why that Detroit game was number one. It was a tough choice between that and the Philly game, but with the run Detroit's on right now, I'll tell you what. Now they get another home game taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'll tell you what, I would love to see Detroit make a run. I would love to see them make a deep run for sure.
Yeah, so would I. And that was one of the other 3 wins we had against playoff teams.
Yeah, but this team went deeper,
The
so
reason why it was number 1 is because of the tailspin the Eagles went on at the end of the season.
yep, that's why we made the Detroit Lions game our number 1 win, was because Philly just collapsed.
Yeah.
Yep, I'll tell you what. So we ended the year 9-8, and let's see what we get for our next head coach. Rumors is right now we're going to be interviewing the Lions OC. Hopefully we get a chance to interview Mike McDonald, the Ravens defensive coordinator, who I personally want, especially after watching what his defense did to the San Francisco 49ers on Christmas Day, for sure.
Yeah.
But other than that, that's our top 5 wins of the 2023 season. And let's see what we do in the future. Bring on free agency, bring on the draft, and let's see what we can do in 2024 and see how many top wins we'll have in that season.
Yeah, we didn't think we'd have we didn't think we'd have top 5 wins this year.
Yeah. Especially when we went on that on that 4-game losing streak.
Yeah, after that 4-game losing streak, we didn't know if we'd have, top 5 wins to consider.
Yeah, for sure. But anyway, drop your wins in the comments below once this live stream gets uploaded and it's uploaded completely. Drop your top wins in the comments below. Hit the like button, and we'll catch y'all for our divisional round picks on Thursday. If you ain't with it, you ain't infamous. And as always, go Seahawks.